Most editors are a pain in the ass to work with, and surprise, surprise, editors who aren't a pain in the ass to work with tend to make a lot more money. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing exactly what high-paying clients are looking for so you can become exactly the type of editor that they hire. And the reason I'm making this video is because I recently went through the process of hiring an editor for myself. And even me, with the network that I have, I was struggling. We'll give a few more stories in a bit, but first we'll jump into the core formula that is the basis of this entire video. And if you can just understand this, I promise you, every client interaction from here on out will be so much easier for you. So in general, the more value you provide, the more money you will be paid. But more specifically, it's the more perceived value that you provide. Because let's say you have the same object, the same thing you're selling, let's say a bottle of water. To two different people, that could be valued extremely differently. For someone who's not thirsty at all, they might pay 50p for it. But for someone who's extremely thirsty and they have no other places to get it from, they might spend $4 or $5 for a single bottle of water. So the same thing can be valued at different amounts depending on how the person perceives the value that they get from that thing. But then the question becomes, how can we increase the perceived value from our editing services without actually changing what we're doing? The way I like to think about perceived value and increasing it to maximize how much I can charge per video, where I've gotten past 1,000, 2,000 per video now, is it's just the difference between expectations and reality. So if I tell you this apple is going to taste good, and you have it and it tastes good, I set the expectation that it's going to taste good. Reality is that it tastes good. If I tell you that it's going to taste good, but then you taste the apple and it tastes shit, well, you're going to be like, my expectation was here, but the reality was it's here. That difference being negative, where expectation was higher than reality, means that you're disappointed. The perceived value was extremely low. Now, what happens if I tell you that the apple's gonna be shit? I've set the expectation super low, but it turns out the apple wasn't that bad. Reality has exceeded expectations. But can you see how the apple being better or worse doesn't actually have a huge impact on the perceived value? Yes, of course, it's better if the reality was as high as possible, but just by changing the expectations, we can actually change how well the edit is perceived. And the reason I'm so fired up to make this video in specific is because I recently had an editor where we decided that we were gonna have a 3-day deadline. This is super reasonable for the type of videos we're working on, and he agreed to it. In fact, we had a 1-hour call right before working together saying that, hey, this is the footage, here's exactly how long it is, here's the reference video, here's the deadline, can you do it? He was like, easy. He has set his expectation here. Now, when he's 1 day in and he comes to me and says, hey, I'm gonna need another day on the video, I usually wouldn't mind giving him 4 days. But the thing is, he set the expectation that it would be 3, told me it's actually now gonna take 4. I'm now mad. It's sort of like if you gave a kid a candy bar and then you took it away, the kid would cry. They'd probably cry a lot more compared to if you just never gave them the candy at all. Sort of in the same way, don't promise someone the world and then under-deliver. And this is where that core concept of over-delivering comes from. So as you're going into your client conversations, realize when you're setting an expectation, ask yourself, how can I just make sure that this is met? Preferably, how can I make sure that it's actually been surpassed? So the editing that you said you would do, how can I make it so that it's a level even above what they've asked for? Now, a lot of editors are scared because they think, oh, but they said they want a simpler video. You would be surprised how many editors I've told, hey, do it in a way where you think would be objectively better for the video, and their first reaction to me is, but I don't want to because the client doesn't let me. Here's the thing, I then ask them, have you tried it before? In most cases, they say no. I say, just do it one time. If he complains, you can just take it out of the video. But every single one of them, except one, their client loved it, and most of them actually got a raise straight after. So don't be afraid to put in more effort than you're paid to, because usually it'll mean you actually can raise your rates over time and you have better work to show, meaning you can get more clients. It's just a win for you, it's a win for the client, it's great. But what happens if you have tried to do more complex edits and the client just didn't like it? Usually that's not because the edit had too much effort or too many animations in it. Usually it just didn't match the context of a video. I remember once I was giving feedback to an editor where I literally go through frame by frame and give him feedback. I remember it was a murder documentary video. Usually with these documentary videos, I mean, if I just ask you, what sort of vibe or style or colors do you think would be used? Probably some darker colors. Maybe you got a vignette where the borders are darkened. This guy used bubbly text with a neon pink background where there were like sparkles and shit going around, where it's talking about a woman getting murdered, yet you've got this sort of like gaming, kiddie, bubbly vibe. It just didn't match. Now, me and you can laugh about that because that's absolutely ridiculous, but most of us will fall into this trap in maybe a smaller way. We might not have something as separate to the context, but usually you want to make sure as you are trying to do something more complex or try a new style, ask yourself, can you take reference from other big channels, good channels in that person's niche, and then work in tangent to their style in a similar way to the style that's already doing well in that niche? That just minimizes the chance that a creator will look at you or a client will look at you and say, I don't like these animations. So that's the editing side of over-delivering. But this same thing applies to your deadlines and also your communication. So with your deadlines, you can either just work a lot faster, which actually is my advice for most editors, because most editors are unproductive, unfocused, and slow, and don't have any automations or any presets or any sort of macros set up. So yes, you can get a lot faster at editing. But another way is just make sure that if you're gonna set a deadline, you can actually hit it a day earlier. Let's say I was gonna say that I'm gonna get you a video done in 3 days, and I get it done in 3 days. You're a happy man. But if I say it's gonna take me, let's go to a natural extreme, 2 weeks, and then I get it done in 3 days, you would be like, holy crap, this guy's a monster. He's amazing. What I've objectively completed and the time I've gotten it done in is the same. Only thing that's changed is the expectation of when it's going to be done. So usually what I recommend editors to do is sort of overshoot a little. I expect my editors to get it done in 2 days, so I actually just give them a 3-day deadline to sort of give them that for themselves. But if your clients aren't editors who understand psychology around deadlines, then you can basically just use this tactic where you add 1 day to how long you objectively think it will take. Most editors think videos take them a week. They usually get done in about 2 days at the end. So if you always procrastinate until 2 days at the end on a week-long deadline, just give yourself 2 days or maybe 3 so you have some buffer. It'll mean you get more videos done, but that's a side point. Just try to make sure you can hit the deadline. And the same way on the communication front, just making sure that you keep the client updated is such a good habit to get into. It is such a good feeling, and I'll say this from a client's perspective, where I've spoken to big clients, these guys with millions of subscribers, and I've also hired editors for myself. Nothing beats the feeling where you have given someone money and they tell you what the hell is happening with my money. Oh, has the video been started? Where are we? Has the cut been done? Do you have anything that you need to say? Like, I want to be able to just trust you, but when someone gives you money, it is completely normal for them to at least want to know what's happening behind the scenes. So giving people just small updates, like saying, hey, just to let you know, I have done X amount of the video, and send a quick screenshot of the timeline. It just makes that relationship so much more trusted, if that makes sense, where you actually know what's going on at all times. The client feels better, you have some accountability to actually get the video done, and eventually when a problem comes up, because they do come up, maybe every few months, you mess up a deadline or something comes up, it's normal, but at least they can trust you. Because when an editor just says, oh, I'm gonna be late on one of the first few videos, and he doesn't have a track record of basically communicating clearly, obviously people are going to see it as a bad thing. So simply by making reality exceed expectations in your editing, so making it as good as you can, even though you might not feel like you're getting paid well for it, making it as good as you can because you know that's best for the client and best for you long term in your career. Making sure that with the deadline, you set it in a way where you can actually meet it. If things get tight, you work your fucking ass off to make it happen. Like, there are some editors who will say that, oh, I can't get a video done, and then there's others who will just move mountains to make it happen. And the third way that you can over deliver is that communication. So making sure that you are being clear when things go wrong, when things go right, because it just means that everyone's enjoying the process a lot more. So that is how you make a lot more money than most editors. And you can watch this video here where I explain another concept where I just talk about basically the 6-step process to actually turning this into a full-time income. So you can watch that now.